Previously on Unscripted.
The show that I actually watched the most this whole year, probably more than 150 episodes of it at least, is Jeopardy. I watch it every single day.
Jeopardy. When you said 150 episodes, I'm like, what show has 150 episodes?
You're listening to Unscripted with Skip Sherman and Josh Obadia.
Okay, Skip, so this is part 2 of our best of 2023. Part 1 was last week, and we gave out our entertainment awards. Part 2 is going to be sports awards. This used to be one long episode. We've decided to break it up into 2 separate episodes because we both talk too much and the episodes get to be too long. So we're going to do our usual listener mail, but I just want to ask you quickly before we get to that, how do you feel about your list, today's list?
Oh, we're going right into the list. I feel good about it. It's almost weird to talk about sports on our show because we just don't do it as much. It's amazing that for all these years we thought about doing a sports podcast, and then eventually we did, and then we stopped, and I actually prefer the format that we have now, which is very, sports always comes up because we're passionate about it, but no, it's I had almost no trouble making the list. I did the same thing this year as I did for the last week's topics. I kept track of the year when something would happen, So I'm excited to get going on that.
So I didn't keep track, so it was a little bit challenging for me. I needed some extra time to compile this list. I actually watched very little sports, much less than I've ever watched before. So I didn't have as many things to choose from, which is maybe a good thing because then I didn't get so confused.
Right.
So yeah, you're right. We used to talk about sports a lot more than we do now. And anyway, we'll see what you think of my list. But let's get to listener mail.
Mailbag.
Stephanie from Montreal. Again, she gives us her list before she listens to our episode. It's kind of like a clinical trial, where there's a blind and a non-blind section of the trial,
Right.
She's going in blind. She said her top movies are The Hunger Games, Ballad of Songbird and Snakes. This is a Hunger Games prequel that just came out. Barbie and Guardians of the Galaxy 3. TV, she mentioned Beckham, which is a documentary. Did you watch that?
No, I didn't see it, no.
The Bear, Last of Us, You, Poker Face, I didn't watch, and a show called Kunk on Earth. I never even heard of it. I actually just had to look it up this morning. Music, she said somehow in 2023 she got obsessed with the song Country Road by John Denver.
Is that a new song?
No, that's a song from 1975.
That's
I don't
what
know.
I thought.
Yeah. Then she also mentioned a song called The Old There Before by Rachel Zegler. This is a song from that Hunger Games prequel movie. Can't Catch Me Now, Olivia Rodrigo. Toothache by West is Lonely. Tell me if you've heard of any of these.
No, I haven't.
Love Story by Taylor Swift. I mean, that's an older song. That's her list. Derek from Montreal. He actually group chatted us, Josh, this week. Texted us with a little
I didn't know that was
information.
I didn't know that was allowed.
Yeah, little inside information about. He gave us a scoop on the filming of the next season of The White Lotus, which was, thank you for that, Derek. Movies, he said he thinks he may have seen 4, but to my surprise and delight, I love The Hunger Games. So another vote for the Hunger Games movie, which is pretty cool, actually. I think probably I should see it. My daughter actually went to see it in the movie theater twice. She absolutely loved it.
I'm surprised you haven't seen it because you've seen all of those Hunger Games movies. I don't know why you haven't seen it yet.
I read the books too and everything. I was crazy about that series. TV shows, Derek is going with The Bear. Season 2, he loved it. Funny enough, my favorite book of the year, we didn't give out that category, but Derek's free to do that for himself. And his favorite book of the year was Bear Town. Absolutely no relation to this TV series. TV shows, he says honorable mention to Ted Lasso, Crowded Room, and a couple of shows that weren't mentioned. He really likes the final season of Succession, which is a show that I really everybody tells me I need to watch, and Reservation Dogs, which I have not seen, but I've seen the trailers for. We got an interesting note from Jason from Montreal about best concert. He's such a music lover. We know he really is a passionate music lover. He said, best concert, not the 2 Springsteen shows that were canceled in the 11th hour, Albany in April and Syracuse in September. Jason had tickets for both of those, and they're both postponed. So I don't know if Jason's planning to go to the show in Montreal October 2024, but I hope he does. That's listener mail. We didn't get any news about the substance in your pocket. Sorry, Josh, there's no leads on that front.
I have a theory. I think I must have worn the jacket. I know I wore the jacket to work at least once. And when I hung it up, I think someone put the substance in the pocket because, as I mentioned, it only happened in one pocket. And there was so much of it that I don't think it was like an accident. I think somebody sabotaged my jacket.
Wow. Sabotage. Big accusations being levied here.
And by the way, you mentioned The Bear a few times. I just finished watching season 2 of The Bear.
Yeah, and did it make your list? Like, how do you feel about it?
Well, I didn't include it because I had only seen season 1 at the time that we recorded. But a few interesting things happened in different episodes of The Bear that I'm sure you noticed. At one point, they mentioned Mickey Morandini, who I think was your favorite player at one point. He's such an obscure player. The fact that they mentioned him was hilarious.
Why did they mention him? I remember it, but I don't remember the context.
I think they were talking about he wanted to go into business selling sports cards or baseball cards or something. I'm not even sure. This was in the flashback episode, which you hated. And I hated that episode also, by the way.
I do love Mickey Morandini. Very underrated Philly. Yeah, the flashback episode that everyone raves about, which is called, there's a name to the episode. It's called The Fishes, actually. It's the Christmas dinner and it's a flashback. Everyone loves it. Everyone loves it. Everyone I talk to loves it. But I find it so hard to watch. It stresses me out. It raises my blood pressure. It gives me a headache. It's just 1 hour of people screaming at each other. So I was like, after a certain point, I was like, I can't watch this anymore. I'm getting the shakes, you know?
I mean, it's real. Because like if you've ever had like a family gathering during the holidays, that's actually what actually happens. You know, you see all these movies where everyone's, at a family gathering and everyone's happy and everything's going well. That's never how it is. The way they do it, the way they portray it in The Bear is actually real. But I don't want to see that. And in another episode, I don't know if you noticed this, they show like 1 second of the Duke game versus Maryland.
1 second. I know. 1 second.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw it. I absolutely saw it. Well, he has the Coach K book also, right?
Right. It probably cost them hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to get the rights to show that 1 second.
So I didn't know what to ask ChatGPT this week. It was a little bit difficult. And then when I did have a question, ChatGPT really let us down. I asked it what was the most watched TV show of 2023, and then I also asked like what was the most popular TV show of 2023. I rephrased the question, and then I found out that it told me there's no data past January of 2022 and could not give 2023 data, which is amazing. So when you ask ChatGPT something, it's not up to date. It's not up to date in anything.
That's insane.
Yeah, there you go. There's your answer.
Okay, well, we're cutting ChatGPT from our show then.
Yeah, gone. Well, I'll find a different AI. There's so many other ones.
Okay, well, we'll be right back after this to give out our 2023 Sports Awards.
You're listening to Unscripted.
Are you taking a month-long vacation in the stratosphere and you know how hard it is to hold your breath? Are you the cosmic kid in full costume dress? You've got a nice little place in the podcast universe with Set Listing Bruce. Set Listing Bruce is your podcast for all things Bruce Springsteen fandom. We discuss his music, we talk about his tour, and we also talk to fans of other musicians and share their story of their passion, their fandom, and the way that their favorite artist music makes them feel. Set Listing Bruce, a Bruce Springsteen fan podcast, is available wherever you find podcasts. Remember, there is magic in the night.
And now, back to Unscripted.
Okay, Skip, we're back.
All right, so we're going to give out our Best of 2023 Awards Sports Edition. We're going to do our favorite play of the year, our least favorite play or worst play of the year, which is always actually a fun category to do. Favorite game that we watched this year, our favorite athlete of the year, and our favorite team of the year. I kind of like my list, but I'm not so passionate about any of these. Actually, I'm passionate about a couple, but I felt like in other cases, I just had to give the awards to like who was most deserving, even though it wasn't like sparking a lot inside me, but anyways, we'll see how it goes. I'm interested to hear your list. You always come up with some obscure stuff, You're going to throw in like a women's team. You're going to throw in a tennis match. Like I already know like what's coming here. I'm probably sticking to like the big four sports, and you're gonna throw in some obscure stuff that I hadn't thought of, which is, to your credit, really always very, very smart a way of doing it.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna have any the same. And I'll kick it off. I'll tell you my best play of the year. So again, I didn't watch that much sports this year, so I had less to choose from. Mm-hmm. But if I didn't watch the game and I saw the highlight, I'm including it in my list.
All you have to do is watch these highlight shows that are coming on the 100 plays of the year now, and then you can do that's your research right there.
Right. So for me, actually, this was a pretty insane play. It was in the World Junior Championships a year ago, when Canada was playing Slovakia, and the game went into overtime, and they have 3-on-3 overtime, and Connor Bedard seemed like he had the puck on his stick for like 7 minutes consecutive, and he scored the winning goal, and he went through the whole team. Now, it was 3-on-3, so there's less guys to go through, but still, it was an insane goal, and this is an audio podcast. I can't show it to you. I think you've seen the replay a dozen times, and I think you'll agree that it was a pretty amazing goal.
And Bedard holds the line. Bedard back with it. Slides in again. Bedard. Overtime winner sends Canada to the semis.
That is actually a crazy goal. And I like how it was kind of timely, because timely in the moment. Connor Bedard was by all accounts the number one junior player in the world, right? We all know he went first overall in the NHL draft, 6 months later. And this was him announcing his presence on the scene, saying, yeah, I'm number one. Look what I can do, it seemed fitting,
He had an insane tournament. I think he played 7 or 9 games and had like 20 something points. And anyway, it was insane.
Yeah. Well, he started off his NHL career really strong. He's having a great year for Chicago so far, rookie season. By all accounts, he's as advertised.
It's interesting. He is having a great year. He leads the team in goals and assists and points. And yet the Blackhawks still suck.
No, they're a terrible team. Well, they're rebuilding. That's how it goes. You got if you got the first pick overall, it means you were pretty bad the year before, right?
But you'd think they'd have a few extra wins. They might get the first pick overall again, which would bother me. They might,
yeah. So my favorite play is from the world of baseball. It's a play that I watched happen in real time, but the moment really came to more fruition like the day after, when the whole thing went viral on Twitter, social media, everything. And this is Bryson Stott's grand slam against the Marlins in the first round of the baseball playoffs. The Phillies ended up beating the Marlins 2-0. But basically, like the Phillies have like walk-up music for all the players, like most teams do. And Bryson Stott's walk-up music is this song A-OK by Ty Verdes. And so when they start playing the song, the whole stadium is singing along. A-O, A-OK. They're all singing this A-OK song, right? So he steps up there with the bases loaded. He gets into the box, the music stops, but the crowd just keeps singing it, right? Normally they keep singing it for another like 10, 20 seconds. First pitch comes as the music, the chants of the crowd singing along is in the air. The pitch is coming to him, and he smashes a grand slam. And then the next day the whole thing goes viral, and it's just an incredible play. It gives me goosebumps to even watch it. It's just so perfect,
So when you said that the thing went viral, before you said which play, I thought you were going to talk about Bryce Harper getting doubled off, and then the shortstop in Atlanta says "Attaboy Bryce" in the clubhouse, and then the next day T-shirts are printed saying "Attaboy Bryce" because that went viral too.
I could have had a lot of mentions of the Phillies in all my all the categories here, especially Bryce Harper, and that one definitely could have made it. But it was that one's like the one that I had is really a moment, so that's why I went with it. Whereas the Bryce Harper thing, it was like a couple of days of stuff going on.
Actually, I need to correct myself. The T-shirt said "Attaboy Harper," not "Attaboy Bryce." So whatever.
Right.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you my worst play of the year, and there's a lot to choose from.
You love the negative categories.
I do, actually. So actually, that Bryce Harper getting doubled off could have been the worst play.
It was pretty bad.
It was pretty bad. So I don't watch, as you know, NCAA football, but in that game where Auburn played Alabama, which Auburn should have won, Auburn made a million bad plays. You could pick any play from that game to be the worst play of the year.
Yeah.
But that's not mine. So I'm going to cheat. Sometimes you cheat, you know how you cheat when you put like 2 or 3 things in one line there. So I'm going to cheat because this is actually 3 plays, but it was 1 at bat. So to me, it counts as I can say it.
Yeah. The 1 at bat is the worst play of the year. Yeah.
So this is when the Kansas City Royals were facing the Toronto Blue Jays, and Cole Ragans was the pitcher for Kansas City, and Alejandro Kirk was the batter for Toronto, and there were 2 men on base. And Cole Ragans threw 3 consecutive wild pitches. So both runners who were on base subsequently scored, not at the same time, but because there were 3 wild pitches, both of them were able to score before the at-bat even ended. Alejandro Kirk hadn't done anything.
Love it.
And both runners scored, which tied up the game. So that's my worst play of the year.
That's pretty bad. I love it. And it's actually segues beautifully into my worst play of the year, which is from the NFL. And it's almost a whole year ago because it was in last year's playoffs that were in January. So like the equivalent of like a pitcher throwing 3 wild pitches like in 1 at bat is like what happened in this Dallas versus Tampa Bay wildcard game where Dallas kicker Brett Maher missed 4 extra points in the same game. Right?
He's no longer their kicker.
In the same game. Well, what happened is, he missed 4 extra points, and then they did go on to win the game, the Cowboys, which is crazy interesting. And then I remember the next game saying, do they have any confidence in their kicker? Like, are they gonna cut him during the week? Like, what's gonna happen? Anyways, but they did cut him at the end of the season, and crazily enough, they got so much heat because they replaced him with this guy Brandon Aubrey, who has like very little experience as a field goal kicker, just like a couple of years. He actually played in the MLS, like he was a professional soccer player, and then decided, no, I'm going to become a field goal kicker. He has not missed a field goal this year. He's like 30 for 30 or whatever it is. Like the guy's a machine, and he hits like 60, 50, 55, 60 yarders. He makes them look easy. On the kickoffs, this guy on the kickoffs routinely puts the ball through the upright. Like of the like all the way through the end zone in the air, and it's so straight it goes through like a field goal. He's a machine, this guy.
I've actually seen him kick, and there's that one game where he had a 59-yarder and a 60-yarder in the same game. So they certainly upgraded at that position.
Like when he hit the 60-yarder, it was against Philadelphia. I was like, okay, and he hits it so easily. And then the next drive when he hits the 59-yarder, I'm like, well, he's gonna make it. The guy looks like he can't miss. The guy looks like he could hit 80-yard field goals. So, but somehow he has missed like 2 or 3 extra points this year, which is kind of bizarre. So I think the extra points is like a mental game. Anyways, who knows?
Okay, so are we at favorite game now?
I'm going to pull one out of your bag for this one.
Oh, okay. You think we have the same?
We might. So, I mean, if the Eagles would have won the Super Bowl, obviously this would have been my favorite game. But they didn't, and they blew it. So, like, I give it an honorable mention because it was an incredible Super Bowl. And, like, I think most casual fans would say that was one of the best Super Bowls ever because it was so exciting. And for me, it was, like, one of the worst Super Bowls because of the way it ended. But I'm going to go to a game that happened on November 19th of 2023. And that was the Grey Cup game, the championship game of the Canadian Football League, where the Montreal Alouettes beat the Winnipeg Blue Bombers 28-24. Now, look, we don't talk about the CFL that much. Truthfully, I don't think I watched any Montreal Alouettes games this year during the regular season, but I did jump on the bandwagon in the playoffs as they advanced, and they were this incredible story because they were more than double-digit underdogs in the championship, the East Championship game, and then again they were more than double-digit underdogs in the Grey Cup game, and they won both. And as you know, like, they won the game with a touchdown pass with 13 seconds left in the game, right? Literally stunning Winnipeg. I don't think Winnipeg knew that. I don't think they even conceived in their minds that it was possible that they were going to lose to this game. And then to top it all off, if you want to talk about what also made that game great, Green Day performed at halftime. So it's like a bonus. It's like a little cherry on the sundae, we have this great game and we also have this awesome halftime show. So kudos to the Grey Cup. They made our list this year.
That's great. That's a great pick. So I got 4 games actually, and I'll just say them quickly. So I didn't see this game, but if you recall the NHL playoffs, I hardly watched any of the NHL playoffs. But in the first round, Florida was playing Boston. Boston had won the regular season, so they were heavily favored. And it actually went to Game 7, and there was a minute left in Game 7, and Boston had the lead. But Florida scored a goal to tie up the game with less than a minute left in Game 7. And then that game went into overtime, and Florida won in overtime, and Boston was eliminated. So I like that because I hate Boston. So that's a good thing.
Florida was a great story this year, actually, the Florida Panthers. If they would have actually won the Stanley Cup, which then they fell short at the end, they could have, obviously, I think they would have been team of the year, or favorite,
right
for us.
But I was trying to think back. I hardly watched any of the NHL playoffs, so I didn't see that game, but of course I heard what happened.
Of course.
The Super Bowl, as you mentioned, was a very good game. I know that if you're a Philadelphia fan, you didn't like it, but it was a close game. It was decided by, I think, a field goal. And, sometimes the Super Bowl is a blowout. So it was actually an interesting game. Then we go to the World Series, Game 1 of the World Series. Texas versus Arizona. Texas was down by 2 in the bottom of the 9th. Corey Seager hits a 2-run homer to tie up the game. And then in the bottom of the 11th, Adolis Garcia hits a walk-off homer to win the game. And it reminded me actually of the 2011 World Series between Texas and St. Louis when David Freese hit a walk-off homer, also I think in the 11th inning to win that game. So
very nice.
None of those are my favorite game. My favorite game is actually the Grey Cup.
Oh, I love it. I knew it. I had a feeling.
So you're right. It was a very good game. It was one of the few games that I watched this year, like any sport, where I watched from beginning to end. And it was a close game, and it was a back and forth game. And as you mentioned, Montreal was a heavy underdog, and they came back to win with I think it was 11 seconds left in the fourth quarter. So it was a last-minute TD. It was very exciting. And as you mentioned, there was a very good halftime act. I love Green Day. I've seen them live a few times. So it was a win-win-win all around. So yes, we actually have the same thing for one of our categories.
Beautiful. Absolutely love it. I love it. I love it.
I didn't even know that you watched the Grey Cup.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I watched the playoff games, all the playoff games leading up. And you start to get to know a lot of the players a lot more, and kind of fell in love a little bit with Cody Fajardo they call him. But
did you see his inspirational speech to the team afterwards?
One of the best parts of the Grey Cup game is the interviews with the Alouettes players after, and you have these grown men, American guys, American citizens, playing in the Canadian Football League, crying in tears of joy that they've won this game. You can laugh and say, "Oh, the Canadian Football League," but it means everything to the players. Like you saw it, you saw the emotion after the game, on the wins and the losses, and the losses on the Winnipeg side, how much it means to them. So it was really quite incredible to see the post game. All right, I'm going to give you my favorite athlete of the year.
Okay, great.
So I give honorable mentions to Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, Connor McDavid. I think Ronald Acuna had like a sick year in baseball. Like you can't, just looking at his stats, it's almost like hard to believe that there could be such a season, And of course, my favorite player in baseball is Bryce Harper. I was almost going to give it to Bryce Harper because I love him so much, but it's kind of unfair because then he could win every year. It's not really fair, So I actually went to the NBA for this, and my favorite athlete of the year was Nikola Jokic of the Denver Nuggets. As you know, they won the first championship for the franchise. This guy is just a joy to watch because he doesn't look like an athlete. He looks more like a bouncer at a club, or maybe even worse, he looks like he's in like the Serbian mob. Like, I don't know. Like, he doesn't look like a basketball player, other than that he's huge. He's 6'8", almost 280 pounds, whatever he is. So he does. You would see him and say, okay, you play basketball because he's so huge. The guy's just amazing. He averaged 24 points. He almost averaged a triple-double in the regular season. He had 24 points, 11.8 rebounds, and then 9.8 assists. So he's one of the league leaders in assists, and he plays center, which is ridiculous. And then in the playoffs, he averaged 30 points a game. He even raised his game even higher. He's kind of unstoppable. Teams don't know how to defend him because he just plays so differently. And I love the way he just makes the game look so easy. And he's also so goofy doing it that it's just weird. Like, every time he shoots, you just wonder how it's going to go in, and then they always go in. It's just amazing.
Nice. That's a great pick. So, my runner-up, not my winner, but my runner-up is Summer McIntosh, a Canadian swimmer. She had a banner year. She became the first Canadian swimmer to win 4 world titles. And earlier in the year, she set a pair of world records at the Canadian trials. But most importantly, a few weeks ago, she capped off her year with 2 dominant wins at the U.S. Open Championships, including a victory over American rival Katie Ledecky, which made me very happy because I'm tired of hearing about Katie Ledecky.
Right, me too.
But my favorite athlete of the year is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. So, all the things that he did in this past year. First of all, I think he came in... he came in 5th in MVP voting in the NBA. He was 4th in scoring at 31 points per game last year. He was an all-star, but he was also on the All-NBA first team, which is even more prestigious. But never mind his NBA stuff. In the summer, he played at the Basketball World Cup, and he led Canada to a bronze medal upset of the United States. And by doing so, Canada has now qualified to play in the Olympics.
Yeah, it was huge. That World Cup tournament was huge for Canada.
I didn't see any of those games because they were on at 4 a.m., but I heard
I watched all of them. Like, I set my alarm, I woke up. It was crazy.
Now, he also won the Northern Star Award, which is the Canadian Athlete of the Year award. It's been renamed the Northern Star Award, so he's done that. Now, this season, he's playing even better. He's still averaging 30 points per game, and his field goal percentage is better. His rebounding numbers are better. His turnovers are down. His steals are up. I read this stat. So he's got 2.8 steals per game. That's more than 1 full steal per game, better than the next guy, who's Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah.
Just to give you an idea, the gap between him and Donovan Mitchell is the same as the gap between Donovan Mitchell and the guy who's in 110th place.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And then, I don't like these power rankings, when websites do these power rankings, but ESPN's got their player efficiency rating or something or other.
Yeah.
And so they have Gilgeous-Alexander as the 3rd best player in the NBA.
That's amazing. I mean, he's a joy to watch. He was great to watch for Team Canada because he took over games and just he had an incredible 2023 where he just became a star, right? He became it's great that this kid from Canada is playing in the NBA. We used to be happy that we would just have players in the NBA. As long as we had players in the NBA, we were happy. But this was really the year for Canadian players, with Gilgeous-Alexander being one of the best players in the league. And then also, and I mentioned Nikola Jokic, but Jamal Murray was instrumental in the championship of the Nuggets this year, another Canadian player. So like Canadian basketball is really like on the rise for sure, Yeah.
By the way, one other thing that Gilgeous-Alexander accomplished, he has become Michael Wilbon's favorite player, and Michael Wilbon doesn't like anything or anyone, so he must be good.
He must be, right? Yeah. I love it. All right, we're at the last one, our favorite team of the year. I have a feeling I know where you're going with this.
Well, I mean, I could have picked the Canadian men's basketball team, right? They did win the bronze medal. They did upset the United States, and they did qualify for the Olympics. And had they won the tournament, I would have picked them, but they didn't win. So I really have no choice but to pick the Canadian women's tennis team because they won the Billie Jean King Cup. For the first time ever, Canada won the Billie Jean King Cup. And it happened exactly a year after the men won the Davis Cup. So for about a week there, until the Davis Cup happened, Canada held both titles for about a week. So the reason they won, the way they won, is Leylah Fernandez won all her singles matches. And this other Canadian tennis player who I'd not heard of, Marina Stakuzic, she won all but one of her singles matches. She's actually ranked 258th in the world, and somehow she beat all these amazing players. Plus, there's also a doubles portion to this tournament, and I don't know if you know that Canada has one of the best, if not the best, doubles players in the world, Gabrielle Dabrowski. So she won all of her matches. Some of them she paired up with Leylah Fernandez, and some of them she paired up with Jeannie Bouchard. So that's how they were able to win, and they won the whole thing. So I have no choice but to give them my favorite team of the year award.
I really almost was positive that this was going to be your pick. And it's really worthy. It really is great. You don't think of tennis as a team, right? Like a team sport. But in this case, I mean, it loosely is a team sport. I mean, they're playing a team as a team representing their country, even though they're kind of playing all individual matches. It was a great accomplishment. And, I just mentioned that Canada basketball is on the rise. Boy, oh boy, is Canada tennis. Like, I think we've had Jeannie Bouchard was burst on the scene. It's almost 8 years ago or whatever it was. I think it was 2014. And then that kind of fueled a whole other generation of young players, right? And we're seeing that now. But, obviously, we all know Bianca Andreescu when she won the U.S. Open, and then Leylah Fernandez making it pretty far in the U.S. Open and different tournaments last year. Canada tennis is something to be reckoned with now. All right, well, I'm going to give you my favorite team. It's kind of it's not as exciting as your pick. What's interesting in the four big sports this year?
What's interesting?
So we know that we know the Chiefs won the Super Bowl, but in the other three sports, the NBA, MLB, and the NHL, we had a franchise winning the championship for their city for the first time. Right? So the Denver Nuggets won the NBA championship. That's the first time they've won the championship. The Texas Rangers won the World Series. That's the first time that they ever won the World Series. And in hockey, we had the Vegas Golden Knights. I know they're brand new, but yes, it's the first time, right? So it's kind of interesting. You had these first timers. I mean, I was really happy for all the Texas Rangers fans because they've come close a few times, and they're kind of like a franchise that nobody thinks about. And then the same thing, my favorite team of the year, I really got invested in the NBA playoffs last summer, and that's the Denver Nuggets. I mentioned all the same things talking about Nikola Jokic, and I already just mentioned Jamal Murray, but they are a joy to watch. It's they're such a joy to watch as a basketball team because of the way they play and everything goes through Jokic. It's such a team game, yes, he touches the ball in every play, but he's facilitating everything, and they are gonna whoever's open is going to take the shot. They move the ball around. They play beautiful basketball. And then when stuff breaks down, they just pick and roll with him and Murray, and it's almost unstoppable. Down the stretch, whenever they needed a basket, it's just the two of them. And it's really, really, really difficult to defend. You kind of can't do it. So I kind of hope that they win back-to-back. We haven't had a back-to-back championship champion in the NBA in a while. So I would be happy to see the Nuggets win again this year. Just to cement themselves as a great team.
Speaking of the NBA, there are some people who want to change the format of the NBA All-Star Game because it's kind of a boring game. I don't know. For me, at least, I don't even watch it. But they want to do what the NHL used to do. The NHL used to have all the Canadian players or all the North American players versus the rest of the world. And actually, I kind of like that. So they want to do in the NBA, the American players versus the rest of the world for the All-Star Game. If they did that, I'm pretty sure the rest of the world would beat the American team. Because if you look around at all the good players in the NBA, most of them are not from the United States.
I know. We just mentioned the Canadian players, right? So let's say Jamal Murray and Gilgeous Alexander, and then if you have Jokic, and then you have Luka Doncic on Dallas.
What about Giannis Antetokounmpo?
Giannis, Greek. I mean, Giannis, that's amazing. That's a great one also. They're, I mean, I think it would be, if anything, maybe it would make the players actually play.
Yeah, they would
harder
make them care about it, I think.
because the current NBA All-Star game is really brutal. It's like a pickup game, you know?
Okay, I loved your awards. We'll be right back after this with some final thoughts.
You're listening to Unscripted.
Do you know John Hyatt songs?
Maybe you know them from being covered by Roseanne Cash, Three Dog Night, the Neville Brothers, Emmylou Harris, Eric Clapton, B.B. King, Jeff Healey, Bonnie Raitt, or literally hundreds of others.
Maybe you have some of his albums on your shelf or in your cow-horned Cadillac right now.
I'm Jesse Jackson,
And I'm Sylvan Brough.
and we're going to dive in from A to Z. Join us on the Perfectly Good podcast.
We're going to discuss all of your favorites and uncover some forgotten gems, from Aces Up Your Sleeve to Zero House.
Rate and debate every John Hyatt song on the Perfectly Good podcast. Have a little faith.
Unscripted with Skip and Josh is available wherever you listen to podcasts. If you listen to the show through Apple Podcasts, please leave a review. To interact with the show, send an email to skipandjoshshow@gmail.com. Follow the show on Twitter and go to Facebook to like the show page. And now, some final thoughts from the guys.
I have a question for you. Have you purchased your tickets to see Lionel Messi play in Montreal on May 11th?
I have not. I mean, I think the prices are obscene. No, like
I don't know. I haven't checked the ticket prices, but the MLS schedule came out this week, and so if Messi plays in all of his team's games, and if he travels to Canada, they're playing in Canada 3 times this year: May 11th in Montreal, May 25th in Vancouver, and October 5th in Toronto. Canadians will finally get to see him play.
I have no interest. First of all, I mean, I've been to one MLS game in Montreal, as you know. I think you bought me the tickets as a gift.
Right.
The stadium's way too far away from me. It's like I can't. It's just too far from where I live. It is a really cute little stadium that they built, but no, I'm not even going to consider trying to get tickets for that game. That's going to be madness. That's just going to, first of all, the price is going to be crazy. That day, I mean, that whole weekend or whenever the game is, like those days surrounding the game is going to be crazy here. I mean, it's going to be like that everywhere. It's probably a circus everywhere he goes, you know?
What's harder to get, tickets to see him or tickets to see Taylor Swift?
Oh, well, definitely Taylor Swift tickets are harder. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure. Are you going to be watching the Taylor Swift Eras movie on Amazon Prime? You can't get it for free. You have to pay $19.89 to rent it.
So I didn't know about the movie, but now that you told me about the extra $19 fee, I'm going to have to say no.
I mean, I'm sure like in a month it'll be part of like the regular Amazon Prime where you won't have to pay extra for it. But right now, if you want it, you got to rent it, and it's like $20. Well, it's $19.89 for a reason because that's like one of her albums. So
has your daughter watched the movie yet?
No, we're planning to maybe rent it during the Christmas time and watch it all together. I do want to watch it, so I think I will shell out the $20 for it. But she went to see it. Well, I mean, as you know, she went to see the actual concert in Foxborough this past May. But also, she did see it. She did see this movie in the theater because it was out in the theater, right? During the fall. So she actually did go see it in the movie theater, and she said it was good. But I mean, I think having seen the actual concert live, I think the movie was like anticlimactic for her to watch, you know, in the movie theater. She said it was crazy. In the movie theater, people have their phones out recording the screen, and they're just like dancing and cheering. And the movie theater had to make an announcement saying like people should need to stay in their seats. They don't want everyone rushing up to the front, like as if she's really there. It's kind of bizarre, you know?
So if it's at the theater, I don't know how much a movie at the theater is these days, but that's probably less expensive than renting it at home.
Correct. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Shouldn't it be the other way around?
It should. I was actually surprised that the price of renting it is so much. It seems like the wrong amount to me. But who am I to say? Taylor Swift seems to know what she's doing.
She's like the NFL. They have a license to print money.
Yeah, no matter what she does, it's going to work, right? It's like, she has a license to print money. Exactly. All right, well, I mean, I don't have anything else. I just wanted to thank all our listeners for listening this year. Anybody who's listening now, thank you so much. I still can't believe we've been doing this for, I don't know how many years it's been.
It's more than 7 years. I know that. It's like 7.5, I think.
Right. I mean, it's still amazing that we're doing this. It still boggles my mind that people listen. And then I just want to thank all our hardcore listeners, the one who contribute to the mailbag every week. I think the mailbag is like one of our most fun little segments that we do. So thank you all for writing in, contributing to the show, and wish everybody a happy Christmas, happy holidays, happy New Year. This is our last episode of 2023. So happy New Year and happy holidays to everybody.
I echo those sentiments. I wish everyone happy holidays and all the best for 2024.
So I'll leave it with the way we always leave it. I'll talk to you next time.
Have a great week.